This is Comic Geek Speak, episode 87. Jingle bells, Batman smells, Robin laid an egg. Batmobile lost his wheel and the Joker got away. Hey! Oh, pardon our ridiculousness, but, you know, it's almost Christmas, so.
It's Christmas!
That's right. It's funny how we all know that.
I know.
You know, every kid of 5 years old knows that stupid song.
Say, my niece at 4 years old, that's what she sings.
Yeah. Hey, this episode of Comic Geek Speak is brought to you by the New York City Comic Con, February 24th through 26th at the Jacob Javits Center in New York City. Tickets are for Friday, $15, Saturday or Sunday, $25 each, or all 3 days, $35. Special guests include Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane, Brad Meltzer, Joe Quesada, and Neil Adams, and a whole bunch of other people. So we are going to be there, so please join us for all the fun. For this episode, we have the pleasure of speaking with Paul Pope.
And who is we?
Oh, we never even... it's Jamie, Peter, and I. Yeah.
Yes, I'm here.
Hello.
We have the pleasure of speaking with Paul Pope, and he's going to be, in this month's previews, as solicited Batman Year 100, number 1, special 4-issue miniseries prestige format. And so here's Paul. Hello, Paul. Can you hear me? All right. Excellent. With me here is Jamie and Peter.
Hi, guys.
How you doing?
How you doing?
Great.
So, Paul, the first question that we always ask everyone is, when did you first start reading comics?
I was very young. I was, I think 4. I'm stepping outside. I'm just having a cup of coffee, so I'm going to go outside. Thank
you.
The beauty of live radio, right? Live podcasting.
Yeah.
I was 4. I'm actually at this place, Books Kinokuniya, Rockefeller Center. It's this humongous Japanese bookstore with a friend of mine. He's going to pick up some stuff. I'm going to go outside. Yeah, okay. Okay, great. Yeah, I was 4 years old. My dad brought me back from Montreal, the Bring on the Bad Guys, that huge trade with all the old Marvels. You know, like Red Skull and Dr. Doom and all that stuff.
Cool.
And that was it. 1974, 1975, somewhere in there.
And then you were just hooked ever since.
Well, what was interesting is I had the flu at that time, and I was just bedridden, and it was like the Bible, you know. Like, and then the thing is, I was so young, I didn't realize that comic books were serialized. So, you know, all the stories ended in cliffhangers, and I thought they were sort of these weird morality tales, you know, where it's like, there was one in particular I remember, it got a little bit later, about a year or two after that, of Plastic Man. And it ended with him, you know, sort of like chained up or something, or whatever. They put him in a box or something. And I was just terrorized by it, you know. And that's how it ended. You know, like the Doctor Strange is stuck in the Phantom Zone, negative zone. Was, you know, whatever that place was, they put him. You know, I thought that was the end of the story. So a little terrorizing. It appealed to me on some weird level, though. You know, I don't know. It's a place you can go to be afraid, you know.
Right.
And that was it for years and years, because you know how it was back then. I don't know how old you guys are, but you couldn't get comic books back then. You know, I mean, like if you're lucky, you'd stop into a store and, you know, 7-Eleven or something, into the spinner rack, and you might get an issue of Shazam or, what, you know, Captain Marvel. And, of course, that's the same thing where it ends with him going to hell. You know, he's a prisoner of Satan, you know, down in a cesspool somewhere, and that's how they ended.
And where did you grow up?
This was Ohio, my friend, Ohio, and it was sort of like that stuff in Star Wars when Luke Skywalker is wistfully looking at the two suns setting, wondering about life beyond Mos Eisley. I'm always happy to throw in my Star Wars geek, the latent Star Wars geek. Yeah, that's what it's like. It was less Han Solo, more Luke Skywalker.
So, did you take to writing and drawing from an early age, or did you come upon that later?
You know, it's interesting you mentioned that, because I recently came across some drawings my grandma gave me that I did when I was a kid. Because I just, you know, I mean, back then, thank God, we did have things like video games and even Cablevision or Betamax back then. So I drew, and I have a bunch of drawings I did when I was a kid, and I can tell looking at them, they're interesting pictures. You know, they look sort of like abstract compositions. But studying them, I've been recently like tracing them, like doing like studies of them, right? Like kind of like copying drawings I did as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that a lot of those things were attempts at making comics pages. And I was raised by old folks, so back then we were hearing stories about World War II. Like every time you'd have dinner with an old person, you'd hear some new story about, you know, Normandy or something like that. So a lot of the stuff I did was like B-52 bombers or Batman. Submariner, you know, Batman versus Submariner, you know, that kind of thing. You know, team-ups I wanted to see.
That's cool. And then how long did it take you before you started doing work in the comics field?
Professionally, I was maybe 22. It was at that point, I was in school for studio arts and art history. I was like double major. I was thinking about academics. But in reality, it looked like it was going to be a career in bartending, you know. So I thought, you know, I mean, what I really wanted to be was sort of this, I've said this before, but sort of like I really just loved Picasso, and I was so inspired by modern art and the movements that were happening. But I realized that at that point, or this point, you might even, well, the 90s is that point. It's a different time, but by that point, the crisis that pop art was responding to, you might say, in the visual arts, I think comics pretty much solved it. You know, everything that Warhol and Lichtenstein and these guys tried to establish, you know, with their paintings and with their visual art, I think, and not to mention if you have, you know, guys like Warhol stealing, you know, Kurt Swan's Superman, I was like, fuck you, man, I'm gonna steal it back. So, you know, so there was a little art school sabotage in there, but ultimately it's a way to make a living. And that was early enough, too, when it was like, you know, the Mutant Turtles were still, they cast a long shadow. So by 92, 93, it's hard to believe now, it feels like ages ago, but, you know, that was a, you know, I think that you could definitely be caught in their shadow, and, you know, people were willing to pay attention to self-published comics, probably in a way I don't know if they are now or not, like everything's different with manga and everything, you know.
Right.
But that's you know, that's my early days. And I met guys like Jeff Smith and Terry Moore and Jim Woodring and Chris Ware, and like guys who, you know, kind of broke at the same time. Dave Lapham, which was exciting in retrospect, you know, because like you didn't really know. Just you met people at conventions and you liked them and you hung out. And now, you know, Jeff Smith's gone on to become one of my best friends, you know, and it's just really nice how that's happened over time. You couldn't expect that.
Right. Where did you go to school?
Ohio State. And I got a scholarship through SUNY, New York, to study in London painting for a while. So I did. I had good grades. In fact, I kind of forgot, but I had good grades in college. I had terrible grades in high school. So introverted, you know. Right. I was somewhere between like the Pink Floyd stoner rebel kids and the Dungeons and Dragons kids. I could easily hang out with both crowds.
Did you play a lot of D&D?
You know, I did when I was a kid, but you know, it wasn't like I worked up to like, you know, 7th level of mage or something, you know. I can speak the language though. I got 20-sided dice somewhere probably. Excellent. But it's, you know, it's the kind of thing with Star Wars. It's, you know, why be embarrassed of it? You know, it was there. That's right.
Yes,
you know, why not, man?
You must revel in your geekdom.
I mean, you know, it's funny too because my dad. I was a kid when I. So here's the thing. My dad went to naval school, and he learned how to, you know, tie knots, and he's like, you know, rig a sail and all that stuff. I kind of grew up with the whole history of Napoleon, and my dad was just really into French naval history, and he started getting into the Avon Hill games back in the 70s, back when it was still like the strategic stuff, you know. Right. So he actually had a copy of the Dune game, which I think was an Avon Hill one, and I was just, so I kind of, even though I didn't live with my dad growing up, like he gave me the comics, and he also went to Woodstock. He's a huge Doors fan, so it's actually a lot of influence for a guy, you know, considering I didn't live with him. Like he definitely rubbed off on me. He gave me Dune to read when I was like 10. You know, I didn't read it till I couldn't get through it, but I mean, finally when I was like 13, I read it. So, you know, that was it. He wasn't really big on comics. He kind of poo-pooed them, but even though it gave me the, you know, it was like, you know, greasy kid stuff. Right. I remember one time he looked at a Jonah Hex I had, which I can't believe I was reading Jonah Hex. Have you guys been seeing those reprints?
Yeah, I just bought the showcase.
Oh, they're great, right?
Yeah.
Oh, man, so I had one issue, and he's like, oh, this is a book you read with one hand. You know, 'cause it's like, you know, because it's like got some Tiger Lily girl tied up on a, you know, Jonah Hex is riding in, shaving her, and it's like, man, this is nothing. By that point, I already known. At least I didn't really know, but I knew. Wow, how festive, right? Listen to that. Yeah, that's what is that? This is crazy. I'm actually standing in Rockefeller Center. There's a fucking parade coming by. There's a parade, you guys.
Well, this is just about to be. This episode will be very close to Christmas, so how appropriate, huh?
I'm actually looking at that 40-foot tree, and you gotta think I'm a pathological liar, but it's the absolute truth. There's a parade going by. Across the street is the what is it? The skating rink.
Right.
And I'm standing outside of this place, Books Kinokuniya, with all the great manga and everything.
Is that the one that you can just go in and read and get some coffee and just sit there and...
Yep,
yeah.
That's it. In fact, I was just finishing up a cup of coffee when you guys called. And you know what's next door is a place called Alfredo's, which is where they not only invented fettuccine Alfredo, but the place is decorated with Hirschfeld drawings and lithographs. You know, Al Hirschfeld, the old guy. He's amazing, right? So they have a big blow-up of a couple of his, like Liz Taylor, what's his name? Burton, I forget his name.
Richard Burton?
Richard Burton and Cleopatra behind the bar. So you can sit there and just kind of, you know, meditate on this humongous, you know, beautiful drawing.
For those who don't know, you're walking around the streets of New York right now.
I am, yeah. I'm in Rockefeller Center.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually right by, the NBC studios, which I'm sure everyone's seen. I'm looking at the scroll right now. There it is, you know. So
you are, just this month in the new previews, is solicited the first issue of your new Batman miniseries. Why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I mean, the joke that we've got is, John Cassidy is a friend of mine, and he and I have this joke about being given the keys to the fast car. So, you know, he's driving the fast car at Marvel, and they gave me the keys to the fast car. They just said bring it back by midnight. So, but you know, at the time too, when Schreck offered me a chance to do a Batman book, Bob Schreck, the editor, he made a really good case. He said, look, if you're going to do a mainstream character, I mean, you basically, like, we can guarantee publicity for your work if you do a Batman book. And I thought it was a very sober-minded, compelling case for the work on Batman. And since getting involved in it, it's been really fascinating because it's such a it's like you earn your blood wings working on Batman. It's like the trial by fire, you know.
Right.
So it's been a fascinating thing. But I thought of it like, you know, what can you possibly do with a character that hasn't been done 1,000 times? And the more I got into it, it's, you know, he's kind of like a wishing well, like a bottomless well. Like there's just so much you can do with that character. And so in my case, I thought maybe there hasn't been something interesting done with science fiction that I can remember, at least not the way I would do it. And I thought it might be interesting to do something where we use something about the secret identity, like maybe a future America police state where people just don't have secrets, you know, like some sort of one of these, like, you know, police state scenarios. And I thought that might be kind of interesting because then suddenly the fact that he has a secret identity could be used as a metaphor for privacy. Does a superhero have a right to a secret identity? I thought that was a pretty good idea. And so, you know, I thought that was also something that you haven't seen done much. So it has a little bit of a post 9/11 thing without the didactics, really. I mean, you know, you can tell a good story and have a point of view without trying to, you know, shove an idea down people's throat. You know what I mean?
Right.
And also, like, I've been reading almost every DC comic that comes out. They send me the box every month, and I've waded through a lot of them. Just not that good, but in research for Batman, in my opinion, it's like he's played as this cross between Sherlock Holmes and Mr. Spock, where he comes in the third act, he solves the case, and you never see him do anything. Like, you never see the Batman. You know, you don't see him doing physical things. And I wanted something that felt very much like a cross, like, because I love old silent film and stuff like that. And I wanted to have something that felt like an old Fritz Lang film. If the visuals could have been choreographed, like with a Hong Kong cinema feeling. So I mean, Batman's actually literally got wires in this book. He has the illusion of flying and all that Hong Kong stuff. I think it's so cool, and that's what comics need to respond to at this point, in my opinion. So I tried to make a very visual Batman. And, you know, he sweats, he sleeps, he eats. You know, he grits his teeth, he bleeds. You know, so like he's very physical.
Well, this isn't your first foray into the Batman. You did a black and white, is that correct?
I did that. I actually did a few things. I did that. I did an Elseworlds where I sort of recast Batman as a Jew in Nazi Germany in the 30s, which was interesting. And people, that was like 98 maybe. That was my first big Batman thing, and that was in Batman Chronicles. And then I also did just like a fill-in issue for it was Detective or one of those books. I don't remember. It was like one of the newsstand, you know, spinner rack comics, just to kind of prove I can hit a monthly deadline, you know.
Yeah.
So you got the tax bill paid as well, which was, you know, I needed it at that point. So
it's always important.
Yeah, you know, there is a realistic side to all this. So.
Well, one question I do have. I mean, you know, you had said there's a whole lot of Batman out there that was, you know, in your words, I guess, kind of crap. What makes it? What is it about this story that you wrote that's going to get the people that you think is going to hook the people that maybe those stories didn't? I mean, unless you've already gone over it.
Well, for one thing, I think, you know, looking at the character and talking to a lot of the other guys who write the books and have worked on Batman, I think one thing that's really interesting, and everyone really loves this about him, is that he's just a normal guy. Like, if anything, his superpower is money. You know, he just is like an excellent human being. And I think, in a sense, it really appeals to people in this kind of Greek way where, you know, he's just sort of an Olympian, and he's just really a brilliant man, and he's you know, inherited all this money he's using for, you know, a good purpose, and his motivations are very credible. And I wanted to do something that really exploited this notion of, you know, Batman as a regular man. He just happens to be a combination. Like, you know, we've been discussing this thing where he's sort of got the physique of a soccer player and the brain of a Tesla and the money of an Edison or the money of a Trump or something, you know. So I thought, let's do something that really exploits this, where he's very physical. And on top of it, because it's a future police state, I really wanted to play with him, sort of enjoying the idea of manipulating people with a sense of the supernatural. So there's a little bit of a play between like the mystique of Batman or the macabre side of Batman against the police state, with its surveillance cameras and its psychic police, and you know, I've got these cybernetic dogs in it. I mean, because you guys know, if you see my other stuff, I write science fiction, and I take it seriously, and I read guys like Neil Stephenson and Philip Dick, and you know, and I think it's something I think Grant Morrison's really good at. You know, he's really pushing it, and I think and Warren Ellis does this too, like just really good tech guys, you know, like guys who like they know what they're talking about, and they're trying to push a sense of what's possible. And you know, so science fiction is certainly an area that everyone's interested in. Well, a large number of people, at the very least.
Well, definitely.
So that's what you wanted to do with year 100 and take it 100 years from the first Batman story. Yeah,
exactly. And there is a mystery in the story in the sense that, you know, who is this guy? Is this Batman or is this someone else? And, you know, the story's laden with a lot of information. And the cool thing is they're running it. They're not running it as Elseworlds or an alternate future. They're just running it, you know, and it's like, hopefully, I mean, for DC, like, I hope that this is going to be something that opens up a new venue for them, you know? I mean, a future Batman, future Gotham City, and, you know, I mean, I've had a lot of fun. Like, in my book, the police are played as police teams. So you've got the Gotham Panthers and the Gotham Wolves, and they're playing for, like, a police pennant. And so, like, at the end of the year, whoever has the best cases, you know, wins, like, the cup, you know. So and they look like football players. They're kind of like a cross between the Captain America jersey and the rollerball look. You know, that's sort of like, you know, that sort of like rugby player. They're like, you know, the rollerball guy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Absolutely.
So, and that's, you know, it's fun because with sci-fi you're able to really, you know, push this type of stuff, and it's you know, slightly cynical, but in a good way. I'd hope.
Was there anything that you felt or that you found that you had to tone down, like some of your sensibilities from the non-mainstream work? Was there anything?
Well, I mean, I'm pretty much a partisan of comics. I mean, like I you know, going into Batman, I don't have the subversive notion where I want to, like, you know, do something with the character that's really out of character. So I think the book's faithful to not only Batman but to the entire, you know, the, I guess what you'd call the arc. You know, like, you know, in my mind, like, the story of Batman's origin is the story of Batman, like meeting Gordon, You know, like the year one story to me is that's what the films have been really based around, and I think it's the thing that people really respond to,
Right.
as opposed to like, you know, the Adam West stuff that, you know, we all know and remember from childhood. You know, the more camp.
Mm-hmm.
And so I try to make something faithful in that vein, but sort of recast it in a different setting. So hopefully it's going to be a sense of like either reincarnation or deja vu in this book. So, you know, because I mean, there is like if you think of Batman as like a symphony, like Beethoven's Fifth or something, there's a theme, you know, and you can hear that. Batman's got his theme, and it comes across whether it's Miller's version or even going, you know, stretching way back to, you know, when Bob Kane finally got around to, you know, putting the origin in the original stuff.
There have been times when I've read interviews of people who, you know, don't normally work on superhero books or whatever, and they always seem to say, well, I seem to lose my voice a little bit, you know, trying to shape these characters. But it sounds like, you know, this is just a perfect fit for what you really enjoy doing.
Well, I found, you know, it's been difficult. I mean, but Batman's kind of like he's like a 50-foot edifice made out of, you know, polished stone. I mean, he's difficult to climb, you know, and it's weird because working on the character, there are things that you sort of inherently know Batman would or would not do. And so in a sense, it's like you don't control him. It's a really strange thing about the character. And, you know, it's a little bit nerve-wracking, too. At first, getting into it, like, my God, I'm writing and drawing Batman, and everyone's so impressed by it, too. Like, what do you do? Oh, I write and draw Batman. You know, this kind of thing. And you do? You know. So it's a little strange. But, yeah, after a while, you get comfortable with him. I guess it's kind of like having a tiger in your room or something, you know? Like someone locks the door, and you have to make peace with the tiger.
Now, Paul, you told me in an email that you recently had occasion to take lunch with Frank Miller and discuss some Batman things.
Yeah.
What was that all about?
Well, I mean, he's like a friend of mine. I mean, we hang out and stuff, and we talk about all kinds of things, but we do talk about Batman sometimes, and it's cool because he's, I mean, obviously a good sounding board, if nothing else. You know, by the way, I don't think I'm giving away any family secrets here, but one thing I've noticed about Frank is that he has a real ear for dialogue, and he picks it up when people say things. Like, I've been out with him a couple times, and someone will make some comment, and he'll like, oh, it's a great line. He'll write it down on a slip of paper and put it in his pocket. And he'll, you know, so it's like they say, you know, every artist is a cannibal. So, you know, he manages to find it where he can get it. But, yeah, we talk about the character and stuff. And, like, one thing that really perplexed me, I don't know if, like, hopefully this is not going to go in some vein we can't discuss, but one thing that perplexed me with the character, when, you know, you build up this notion of the backstory, right? Who is this character? What is his motivation? This stuff, you know, that thespianistic stuff. Like, how do you build up who this guy is? You know, it's like, is the way you build a character, like, you look at a snapshot of a person, like, here is Gordon, and all you know about him is what you see on the surface, or, like, you build him from the inside, like, you know, what does he like to eat, and, you know, how old is he, and, you know, these kinds of things. One thing that perplexes me with Batman is wondering, does he actually have sex? You know, of course, you know, Frank's notion is he has sex with Catwoman, but I kind of came to the conclusion that he doesn't have sex. Bruce Wayne has sex. But it's one of those, you know, it's like, that's one of those things that, you know, not only talking to him, but guys like Darwin Cook and other guys who worked in the character, and Cassaday for that matter, he really loves Batman. He's certainly got a lot of opinions about the character, and, you know, like a real handle on genre and the history of comics, you know, and that type of thing. So it's a kind of question I think that you need to figure out getting into the character, because in my mind at least, like it helps make the character three-dimensional in your mind to know, like, you know, like what would Batman eat for dinner, for example, like before he goes on a case, you know, or like when does he sleep? Does he sleep at, you know, from, you know, 6 in the morning till noon? Or the only thing that DC sort of specifically said, aside from this Denny O'Neil rule of no guns, which Frank's broken, and his point of view is it's kind of dated, and, you know, the original Batman had a gun, why not? Is no drugs. You know, I mean, you like, Azzarello's point of view is, well, this guy's, you know, on painkillers. It's the only way he can do what he does, amphetamines and painkillers, and that's the one thing they sort of said, like, don't put him on drugs, you know, and I think that's reasonable. If you have kids reading the comic, I feel a certain moral responsibility to the character to not, like, you know, do something that you wouldn't feel proud about. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
Bravo.
You know.
Yeah,
you know.
I applaud that, because, you know, we've had discussions in the past about where does art stop and responsibility to society begin? And it's a fine line. We all agreed, but we also felt that hey, if we want to keep this tradition of comic books going long into the future, we have to remember that in addition to all us 30-somethings, there are kids reading comics for the first time.
I definitely believe that morals outweigh aesthetics every time. But I think within that, you have a wide range of possibilities. And I suppose in a certain sense, artists don't have a social responsibility. They have a responsibility to honestly express themselves. However, when you're working with Batman, it really is a commercial project. And you have a client. Your client's DC Comics. And this is one of the things that's been really good about me, having done graphic design and some, poster and CD record design and things. Like, you do have a sense of what the client needs. And you can't be contracted to, do something and then deliver something entirely different. So I think in some cases where some of the writers have done what I would consider to be material that's, far afield of what Batman is, I don't think it's doing justice to the character. And I don't think it's the proper application of the character's story. Otherwise you could be Robert Crumb and do underground comics. Or in my case, like a lot of times when I'm self-publishing, there are a lot of things that I just wouldn't bother doing in a mainstream comic that I would do, and actually would prefer to do on my own.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, I actually, when what you just said is so key to a lot of my own feelings about art and comics and things like that. Away from younger kids reading, but what you said about this is a character that a company owns.
Yeah.
And I do feel sometimes like there's a trend now where, not a trend, but it pops up every now and then, where a superhero swears, and you don't see the word. It's all it's all symbols and
umlauted, or whatever they call that.
But even that is like, even that little bit is kind of stepping away from what the company's character should be like.
I agree completely, and I think that was a big question in my mind was what role should profanity have in my story? Because I do think in the case of a lot of writers, and I won't name anybody, but there are a lot of writers who they in place of drama they use profanity to get a point across, and I actually think it's a criticism of people who think a lot about the analogy between television or screenwriting and comics. Because I think that there are some things that, I'll just name a guy like Kevin Smith. Like, it seems to me like his comics have a lot of profanity in it. And to me, it's not dramatic. Like, you can do this stuff without, not that I'm a prude or something, but it's like, I just don't think Green Arrow should say fuck or whatever, whatever else he says. I try to, maybe you shouldn't quote me on that one, but I know Warren Ellis uses a lot of profanity, those guys, and it's just like, it's like, man, comics is like haiku. I think you have to boil it down, and I think there's a lot of times you can get the point across without it.
Yeah, I mean, we all know that Green Arrow would say that, but I don't want to see him say that. There's kind of like a, and again, for me, it's just about the purity of the character, and that's why they've been around for so long. That's why the company watches Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman, because they need to exist not only in comics but in other media, and they can't have them doing certain things. Right.
I agree, and I think like one of my favorite writers in comics is Morrison, and his Superman is fantastic, and I think he's sitting on that very point right there, because I think he's doing stuff that's challenging. But okay, hang on.
Okay.
Are you guys there?
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah, we're here. Hello?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Okay, I'm here.
Okay.
Get sideswiped by a cab or something?
No. Just got something here.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I only have a. I'm sorry. I only have a 20. I have to keep it. Sorry.
Was it one of those Santa Claus ringing the bells?
Yeah. No, it's not that. I'm sorry. I only have a 20. I'm sorry. All right, spend it on your kids. You're welcome.
What just happened, Paul?
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Had a little bit of an intense moment there.
Huh.
Someone asked me for some money, and she looked very sad. So, God, what a world this is.
You live in New York. I mean, come on.
I do.
Yeah.
Wow, she looked really sad, and I've got, I don't know, I have an eye for darkness as well. So it's hard to look people in the eye sometimes, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, where were we?
I don't.
Just talking about Batman comics.
I know it's hard to. Well, this is there's a perfect example of aesthetics being trumped by morals, right?
Yeah.
It's funny. I've got this. I just went out and bought. Well, I didn't just, but I'm kind of in this thin white Duke state of mind right now, and I bought this ring because it looks like a family crest. It's like this nice little silver ring. It's got like a shield and some dragons on it. It looks cool. It's like looks like something that like would belong to somebody from the 18th century. Use it to like put on the back of a
wax or whatever.
Exactly. But I notice when I wear it, people get the wrong impression. I think people think I'm, like maybe I'm from money or.
You don't have it on your pinky, do you?
No, I don't. I was told by somebody never wear pinky rings.
Yeah.
So, I actually had a skull ring I bought about a year ago, and I was just in the, feeling I guess a little more Keith Richards. But it was pretty cool because I got the I just gave a lady $20.
So now
she looked like she needed it, and she said it was for her kids, and I think it's true. I don't think that was BS, but it's just intense.
Hey,
but I bought the skull ring, and when I bought it, I got the history of the skull ring. It's pretty amazing, like who it was made for, who made it, and it was like this. I could tell this is the way you get a skull ring. It's the way you should get one. You get the history of the ring. Who else owns it? That type of thing, right? And I got rid of that one though because no one liked that. So our rings are weird. I had to get rid of this one too. I guess what it comes down to.
Yeah, or make sure you carry less than a $20 bill.
Yeah, well, actually, that's the worst of it. Is she caught me, and someone's like got my pants down or something. I'm standing outside, and waiting on this dude inside, and there's just like nowhere to go.
Right, you're trapped.
Then you see the humanity in the eyes, and you just these little things, and you see them, and you can just tell like this isn't a drug addict. This is a lady who's Anyway, we'll get into this.
Hey, it's Christmas time, man. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
We'll get 20 listeners to buy your book and make up that $20.
All right.
Hey, let's switch gears for a second. Now, you said you're outside of a store that has lots and lots of manga. Do you read manga?
Oh yeah, I don't know if you know. I worked in Japan for 5 years. I worked for Kodansha. This is before all this Tokyo Pop stuff.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I was one of 40 international artists hired by Kodansha in the 90s. They were really into this concept of world comics. I'm talking like they hired Mobius.
Wow.
David Mazzucchelli did some stuff for them. A lot of European artists. A couple of Americans. This guy, Garrett Azumi, he still does some stuff now and then. Tom Hart, John Muth did a story for them. And I worked for them for 5 years. And that was like my bread and butter for years. This is before I didn't even think I was going to have a career in American comics. I was, self-publishing, but it was, a different scale. Like working in Japan was like they were gearing me for like 1 million copies a week.
Wow.
And it was for a while an insane workload. And the irony is they wound up publishing very little of what I did. They were really perfectionistic. But yeah, I mean, needless to say, I've got a pretty nice tailor-made manga collection because my editor would send me stuff he wanted me to see. And this was back before Tokyo Pop. Like a lot of the stuff that's coming out from the publishers now is stuff that Kodansha was publishing in the 90s. Gunsmith Cats, Vagabonds, you name it. So it was great. And I think I've come to American comics with a skill set that's really different from what other guys have coming into comics.
Imagine.
Right?
Where in Japan did you live?
I was only there for 2 months because there was a consulting company in Los Angeles, which actually is better because I hate flying, and it's a long flight to get over there. But I was living near the Budokan, which is, I forget the name of the neighborhood now, but it's near the Indian Embassy, and it's the Budokan. So it's kind of like, there's like nothing in the, well, like not nothing, but everything's kind of built on this train, this like circular train system around Tokyo.
Right.
So wherever that neighborhood is, I'm sorry, Chiyocho is called. Chiyocho.
All right.
So it was interesting. It was interesting being there.
I bet. That's we often talk about how to make comics in the United States as successful as they are in Japan, and no one has any answers.
Well, that's interesting. I actually think it's because the Japanese language the written language is pictographic. And I think that there's something to this, because when we see, Roman numerals, Roman letters, we see them as letters. We don't see them as pictures. Whereas I know with katakana and kanji, the Chinese and the Japanese, like, they see word pictures, right?
Right.
So it's a entirely different visual language, like a visual vocabulary,
Sure.
And I think that's the basis. Like, the editors over there, like, they insisted that it wasn't that the Japanese are more literate, or for that matter, more culturally interested in a wide sense. I think the fact that 80% of Japan, I believe this is the correct statistic, 80% of Japan is urban, and they are required to ride the subways. And you're talking, commuting time of an hour. Like, at least an hour a day, probably, if not an hour one way. There's nothing to do. Like, until they start, polluting our brains with moving pictures on video screens. I mean, people, like, that's what they read. And the Japanese have just really tailored books to their audience, and they've done a good job at it.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought about the whole visual language translating into visual comics. I never would have made that connection. That's really cool.
I think there's something to it.
It would make sense.
Well, when I was in college, I like toward the end of my time in school, I got into the Japanese immersion to try to like learn, which ultimately I realized was a waste of time because they gave me a translator. I didn't really need it, but it was just like brain numbing. It was worse than physics. I mean, it's like it's amazing. I mean, I don't know if you ever took like an immersion language class, but at least something like Spanish or French, at least has like a root in a Romance language, right?
Right.
But Japanese is like utterly impenetrable. And a good friend of mine is Japanese, and she's learned Chinese, and says it's like going from Japanese to Chinese, even though it's the same language and that they same letters, but they read differently. She says it's a lot easier than it is, learning going from Japanese to English. So sure. I can imagine.
I've learned a little Chinese and found it very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Are you? Well, you said that you read the big box of comics that DC sends you, so you're still actively reading comics?
Oh, sure, yeah, absolutely. I read them for fun. I don't have a TV at home or internet. I like to read, so I love comics. Although I've recently kind of decided to quit reading and just boil down to the stuff I loved as a kid. I'm kind of going into like, I don't know if I'm exactly if I'm really a reactive person in this sense, but a reactionary, I mean to say. But in this case, I think it's just the right time to do that. But yeah, I've been reading. I read everything: Birds of Prey, all those Wildstorm comics, and all that stuff. Ironically, I buy Marvel comics usually. Like it's nice. Like I buy when Bone was coming out, I'd buy Bone and 100 Bullets. And when Cassaday does X-Men, I think that's really good. I pick that up. Then, if I'm lucky, some Robert Crumb or whatever's just coming out that's really cool. And then manga, of course. I keep up with the manga. I think there's some amazing stuff coming out of Japan.
Have you ever done any work for Marvel?
Yeah. I've done a few things for them. I did a Spider-Man story for Tangled Web.
Oh, okay.
I did an issue of Ecstatics. I did a Captain America story, which I don't know if anybody ever saw, but it was in this trade called Red, White, and Blue, and it has.
I have that one.
Okay, you know that one? Yeah, I did. I think I did a pretty good story for that, and like a Red Skull story. He's one of my favorite villains. Him and Doom.
Oh yeah.
I almost did a Hulk graphic novel for them, but then I heard from one of the editors that the movie was going to be terrible, so I saw the like rats from a sinking ship. I left.
One of the editors actually told you that the movie was going to be awful?
Yeah, that's what you call scuttlebutt on the boat.
Wow. One of our listeners actually works for ILM and did a bunch of the special effects on the Hulk movie. So
oh, sorry, dude.
We're not allowed to say that the Hulk movie was bad.
All right, well, I'll say it for all of us. In fact, I didn't even.
Some of us don't think the Hulk movie's bad.
Okay, well, you know what? Then to each his own. That's why they say
exactly.
Well, you know what I mean. My favorite film is Knights of Cabiria, the Fellini film. I mean, I'm a little bit of a snob when it comes to this stuff. I don't drink beer either. You know what I mean?
Neither do I.
I mean, everyone's got their own taste. So,
where does
it's entertainment. Why not? There's room for everything. I don't even understand video games. I'm really glad I got grandfathered out of that one because I just do not understand that.
That old,
I'd rather look at porn for 2 hours.
Amen to that.
Exactly.
Well, how old are you?
35.
Okay, so we're all in the same boat then, practically.
Yeah.
Where does some of your inspirations come from? Like just because of seeing your artwork and your style and hearing you talk, what are some of your inspirations?
Well, I mean, I did. Well, of course. I mean, as a kid, I loved Kirby. Toth, Milt Caniff, Hugo Pratt, Mobius, a lot of the Hernandez brothers, Chester Brown, a lot of this stuff. I mean, the 80s were a great time to be getting into comics, the heavy metal. I love that stuff.
A lot of diversity.
There really is surprisingly a lot of diversity back then. But, and then having gone to art school, I got really seriously into I love culture, and I think it's our currency. It's what's important, and I think in some ways, that's what we do with comics is great because people pay attention and they're interested in ideas, and they think, and it's fun, and it's not something that you have to go to a gallery to look at or you have to have some sort of grad school education to understand. But I've read a lot of art theory and art history and stuff like that. So I could, rattle off the painters I like and whatnot, and I mean that stuff's in the mix too. Because I don't really look at TV or movies much or think much about it. So I don't have much of an influence from that direction.
You actually go outside and look at nature and look at reality, right?
Oh no! When I was in school, I did all that classic stuff. I studied, anatomy for years, and I did copies. I literally did a copy of the Discobolus, a copy of the Discobolus in London. A lot of this kind of stuff. Like if it worked for Da Vinci, it worked for me. I was way into Da Vinci, just fascinated by him, and Delacroix. I'm inspired by Emerson and Thoreau. These guys, Walt Whitman. In some ways, I'm a little classic in that sense.
That's what I was just going to say. Are you going to be hitting the New York Comic Con in February?
I don't know. I'm kind of in this Howard Hughes phase where I'm getting a little bit weirded out by crowds, and I'm thinking I'm not going to do any shows, although I'm doing a couple things. I think I'm actually going to fly to Paris for who wouldn't fly to Paris, right?
Yeah. I'll take any excuse to go there.
There's a store over there that wants to fly me over for the Batman book, and I think, although this isn't official, I don't mind saying, I think Cassidy and I are going to throw a party in New York in February because he's got his new X-Men stuff coming out, and I got a Batman thing, or this Batman thing. So we're thinking about that, and then I'm going down to Sydney in July for a design conference. I did this talk here at Lincoln Center in September. It was pretty cool. It was all like motion graphics, like guys who did stuff for like Diesel Industries and the Olympics, and this other guy doing this multimedia stuff for the band Tool, like really far out stuff, right? Then I was like the analog guy, I was invited, and and they're showing like poster design and comics and stuff. So it's a nice area. I really like the designers. Like they're interesting people and they're pretty cool and pretty hip. And they love comics, but it's like they speak like a related language. So I think I'm gonna hit a couple of those things.
We have a bunch of listeners in Australia, so they'll be happy to hear that.
Oh, good, yeah. I work with a design team called Rinzen, and they're from Brisbane, and they're doing the logo design and some of the packaging for the Batman book.
Oh,
so
cool.
They've been really good. They're pretty hands off, and they've allowed me to bring in a freelance design team. And, like, we redesigned the Batman logo, which I guess you guys have probably seen by now, but I wanted something Motorhead, like something real heavy metal looking. So I think we've got something pretty hot, pretty gothic looking,
Hey, and if you get to Paris, you'll have to look up R. Crumb and Gilbert Shelton. They both live there.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Actually, I had a chance to meet Crumb. A friend of mine does some PR for Samsung, and somehow he hey man, I've been outside waiting. Good? Okay, cool, yeah. Good, all right. My old boy here is done, so we're going to step out. So head up the street. Cool, okay, so, yeah, but I had a chance to meet our Crumb. A friend of mine does PR for Samsung, and somehow he knows Stella McCartney, and he did some design, or Crumb did some design stuff for Stella McCartney or something like this, but it would have been one of those things. Have been like 500 people get to meet Crumb.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to do that. So.
Great.
But I would love to see him. I mean, I wouldn't say no. I know some of the artists over in Paris. I mean, I think because my style is a little more European. I've published in Danish and Finnish and all these languages. So I know that there are people over there. And I've been in Angoulême before, and I'm actually doing a book next year with Dargaud. They do Asterix in France and a lot of that. Valerian, I don't know if you remember that book. Pretty great, old French comics, sci-fi stuff,
Cool.
So I hope to be making a few more inroads in that direction.
Excellent. Well, Paul, we really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us.
That's great. I appreciate it. It's my first podcast, as I said, and
cool.
It's been pretty painless.
Yeah, we're pretty easy on the.
$20.
We don't hit below the belt,
Yeah, I was saying, like you said, it only cost you $20. So
it only cost me $20. Oh wait, I'm on my cell phone. It's cost me more than that. So.
Oh, okay.
Oh well, worth it. Good cause.
Hey, well, everyone, Paul's new book is Batman Year 100, and the first issue comes out in February, so we'll look for that. And if you change your mind and you decide to come to the New York Comic Con, you can find us there because we're going to be there.
Okay. Well, if you guys are there, maybe I'll come by.
Cool. We'll give you a call. Maybe we can go out.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So you can invite us to that party with you and John Cassidy.
Hey, I think there'll be some girls taking their clothes off and rock and roll.
I'm there.
That's a good kind of party.
All right, we got my number. Give me a call.
All right, man.
Hey,
have a good time in New York.
Okay, adios.
All right, bye-bye. Wow, he sounds like a fun guy.
He's my new favorite creator.
That's right.
I'll be honest with you. I didn't know much about him. I knew his artwork, but you're right. He's a guy now. I'm going to have to go find his stuff, and I had it on my list as a maybe picking up this Batman thing. I'm definitely going to pick it up. There's no doubt in my mind.
I want to read everything he does. I want to read every interview. I want to know everything about him. I loved what he had to say.
I know that you did too. His whole, it's a difference between my artist streak has to end because my job to the character and to the company has to start, and there's a line there that you shouldn't cross, and I really appreciate that.
Yep.
And when we were having that whole discussion, I don't know whichever podcast it was. I don't think we ever looked at it in quite that way. We were always talking about, how your responsibility as an artist, and he's saying you stop being an artist at that point and you start being an employee, and you have to follow the rules that an employee has to follow. And if you're doing your own book, you can do whatever the hell you want. But when you're dealing with these guys, I like that. I hadn't thought of that in that way, and that makes perfect sense. And I'm sure there'll still be people that'll argue with it, but screw them,
They would just be wrong then.
That's right. If you think that, you're an ass.
Yeah, I mean, he's right. I think that's why you haven't seen the big... I'll just stay with the big three, like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. That's why you haven't seen them do certain things.
Right.
Because they are a company-owned character. So, yeah. But just... he just hit so much about... his inspirations and what he likes, and he doesn't play video games, and he doesn't watch TV, and he doesn't drink beer. You know what I mean? It's like, wow, he's got his eyes open.
Yeah, very much. Well, and
I don't mean he's not he's not drinking beer, so he's open minded. I don't mean that. I just mean there's something about the way he speaks and the way he puts his thoughts together and his thoughts that I go, whoa.
He's an intellectual.
Yeah.
And I got that from a lot of the things that he was saying.
Yeah, because anybody who puts a Fellini film as their favorite film, That's a guy who knows something.
And someone who's been to Japan and been to Europe and you know and all this kind of stuff. I mean, he's thinking, he's opening his mind up to other ideas, and he's not because you know we have so many closed-minded Americans who you know if it's not baseball or apple pie, screw it, they don't want to have anything to do with it, and I hate that attitude because I don't think that way, and so I appreciate when someone else, you know, is thinking globally. I appreciate that because there's a lot we can learn from other cultures in other ways. I mean, look at manga for an example. I mean, Japan's doing something right in their comics business, and you know whether it comes from thousands of years of a picture-based language or whether it's some other sensibility that they have, whatever it is, they got to figure it out, and so we can learn a thing or two from that.
Sure.
That was cool. And by the way, if you are a customer at DCBS, issue 1 of Batman Year 100 is 50% off. So
what makes it $2.99?
$2.99 because it is a $6 book, which is a little steep, but it's only 4 issues.
Prestige format.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting that he said it wasn't Elseworlds. So they could keep it in continuity or they could write it out 35 years from now or 34 years from now when it gets to be 2039, but they didn't say immediately that it's not in continuity. That's kind of interesting.
So fun. It's so weird to you know, when I was doing some research on him as much as I could before we did this, I was like, you know, why haven't I heard Paul Pope's name before? You know, I saw him in a Wizard article and there's some interviews online and you know, he does some mainstream, but it's not, you know, he's not always doing it. And even the indie creators, you know, you at least hear every now and then. And I, you know, before we started talking about this, I don't remember his name.
Well, you know, I knew him from, you know, I would put him, if you would say Paul Pope, I would put him with like, you know, the Hernandez brothers and Chester Brown and, you know, Dan Klaus and all those guys. I would, you know, say Paul Pope, you know, independent, you know, not, I won't say avant-garde, but, you know, a different sensibility when it comes to his artwork than the norm. And I think, I mean, I really think it works for Batman. I really did enjoy that, what he did in the Batman Black and White, which was a backup. He did one of the backups to the Gotham Knights, pardon me, when they were doing the Batman Black and White in the Gotham Knights books. And it was just, I thought it was a really neat take, and just his visual style really fits a Batman book. And I'm really looking forward to his visual style also fits a futuristic style book. Yeah. So, you know, the two together I think are going to make for a good book.
I'm pretty sure he has his website is www.paulpope.com. I'll put it up in the show link.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And he has his bio on there and bibliography, and he's done stuff with Dark Horse and a book called Heavy Liquid and 100%, and he's been around. I mean, he's I read on there he did he even did like a drawing for the JLA Gallery and something for I think the Swamp Thing Vertigo Secret Files. So after I saw that, I was like, you know, I got to start. And hearing him, I have to pay attention to this guy. Yeah,
it looks like I'm going to... I already placed my order, but I guess I can have to email Cameron and say, add this book to my list, because now I am curious. Before we talked to him, I thought I was in the boat with probably a lot of people saying, do we need another Batman miniseries? But after listening to him and his love of sci-fi and everything that's so well now, I'm curious, and so, you know...
I'll
check it out.
A lot of the writers he said for sci-fi, I was like, wow, really, right on.
Yeah. I mean, if the guy has the kindness to take time in his day to talk to us, I'll have the kindness to read his book. Yeah. You know, that's the way I learn. Tit for tat, you know.
And he's a Grant Morrison fan.
Yeah. I'll have to talk to him about that later.
I knew that. I purposely
straighten him out on that one.
When he was talking about that, I knew you two guys were like...
It did take him down a notch, but, you know, I'll forgive him.
It's funny.
I love the fact that he was just like chilling out in the streets of Rockefeller Center, you know.
I'm here in front of this big 40-foot tree. And I'm surprised there were no crowds, unless he was away from it.
I'm sure there had to be. Shopping is insane. All right, Peter. Let's see if we can't put you through the ringer tonight. Let's see who we have here. This one's from Kin, who's our listener from Israel. currently our only listener who's made himself known from the Middle East. So, question 1, DC. In Dial H for Hero, someone dialed villain instead of hero. Who did it, and what did he become? Oh, I thought you would be quick to name this one.
Wonder where if he means the Silver Age, the current stuff, or...
I'm thinking he means Silver Age.
Silver Age?
Yes.
Because I'll be honest with you, I read most of the current one, and I don't remember anybody dialing villain.
Yeah, and in the Titans, they dialed hero backwards. Villain, wow. I'm going to go with there's a Superboy backup story. Somebody, I think, dialed villain and they became the Master, but that's a poor guess.
He says gang leader Daffy Dagan became Daffy the Great, squaring off against Quake Master in House of Mystery number 158.
Oof.
So
yeah,
yeah. Question 2, Marvel.
I have a bad feeling about these questions.
Where was Doctor Strange's manservant from? City, not only country, and who was he betrothed to?
Yikes. It's Thailand. I couldn't tell you what city, and he was betrothed to Lucy Liu. I have no idea.
He's from...
Lucy Liu?
Is that even... Oh,
Jamie.
Jamie.
Hey, it was a joke. Everybody knows I'm kidding.
Oh, here come the emails.
He's from Kamar Taj, Tibet.
Oh, Tibet. I was wrong about Thailand.
And was engaged to Imei Chang. So that's 2. You're 0 for 2, Peter.
Don't even ask.
Swing and a miss.
I'm toast.
Independent.
I'm toast. I know it. I can feel it coming.
Judge Dredd's informant, Max Normal, played a billiards-type game called Shug. He was one of the few known experts in which move, which could drop 6 balls in one shot.
The Macarena.
The move was called the Bogalariz, as seen in Judge Dredd Annual 1981.
Holy hell.
There you go.
Some free stuff's coming your way.
I'll say.
Oh
it's
my.
going to take 8 years, but it'll get there.
So, Kin, send us your info. Wow.
You could.
Yeah, you got
Mark Wade couldn't have even answered those Gorker Music. Wow.
Oh my.
Stumped.
That was, you were toast on that one, man. There was no chance. All right, what should we do now? You want to,
Let's do a call me.
Let's do it. That's what I was going to say.
Because we always do those late in the podcast, and we always seem to be rushing, so we have time.
All right, we got a lot of them here. Hey, we're going to call Marcin Wolynski. He stumped you as well, didn't he? Just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
So let's call him.
And in case you don't know what this is, we are asking people to send their phone number if they want us to call them. You can send it to comicgeekspeak@gmail.com. And whenever we record, we'll just pick a phone number, and if you're there, we'll just rap it to you for a few minutes.
If you're not, we'll make fun on your answer machine.
Do we know where we're calling? Oh, you know what? I think he's in Connecticut or something like that.
Hello.
Hello, Marcin.
Yes.
Hey, this is Brian Deemer at Comic Geek Speak.
Holy crap, Brian Deemer. How's it going?
That's very good. I'm here with Jamie and Peter.
It's nice to hear you guys. How you doing?
How you doing?
Hey, how are you?
Where are you?
I'm in Amherst, Massachusetts. I'm actually sitting down with my friends, and I know some of the guys over there are fans of musicals. I'm watching one of my favorite, Dr. Dolittle, the original.
Oh, cool.
Okay. So, very
Anthony
odd.
Newley and Rex Harrison.
Yes. Rex Harrison, the greatest tenor of the 20th century.
The greatest talker of the 20th century.
Yeah, that's actually a little more apt. But what are you guys talking about on the show today?
We just had Paul Pope on.
Uh-huh.
He's doing the new Batman Year 100 miniseries coming out from DC.
Oh, okay. Okay. Year 100 or year one later?
Year 100.
Huh.
Batman 100. It's set in 2039, 100 years after his first appearance.
Okay. Well, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. I was just thinking I was about to send you guys a voicemail because I just finished listening to all 86 episodes. I started on episode 68, and then I decided, well, this is a really great podcast, and I just went backwards and listened to all of them. So it's been an interesting 2 months, to be honest.
I bet.
Are you hearing our voices like at night or like
sleep?
Yeah.
It's very subliminal. I wake up thinking, man, I'd really like to, read more comic books. No, I have this job where I work at a cafeteria and I wash tables, so I listen to my iPod the whole time. It's the only way I can get through the job because it's insanely boring.
What do you? You're in college, right? Is that what you said? Okay. What do you go for?
Well, I'm a UMass Amherst. I'm actually finishing this semester. It's kind of like a cousin of political science. I do some social justice work, that kind of thing. So it's all over the board. There's a sister organization in Pennsylvania. It's called PennPerg, if you've ever heard of it, or Penn Environment. They do a lot of cool stuff.
Cool. Wow.
Yeah.
Where's the love of musicals come from?
Let me think. I guess my parents. I mean, they're Polish immigrants, but they would just sit me down. We go to the library and just pick up a bunch of videos. I must have watched The Hobbit, the animated one, like 6 or 7 times when I was a little kid. So it's a nice little hobby. It comes across strange. I'm like you guys have said in the past. They kind of let people are like, oh, you listen to musicals? That's kind of weird. But I think it's a great form of film. So wish there were more.
Awesome.
What's your favorite of all time?
I think this one, but I've also I love what's on the tip of my tongue. My Fair Lady also. But then there's some modern ones like Team America World Police is essentially a musical, and my favorite track, of course, is Everyone Has AIDS, which my brother, who's 12 years old, loves to sing.
Matt should be here right now. AIDS.
Yeah, that's cool. And any other topics for today? Any top fives, so on and so forth?
No.
How about your top 5 female characters?
Yeah. Female characters. Yeah, I was actually listening. I actually love it when you guys do that because I pause the iPod. I'll do my own list and follow up. I was thinking. Let me think. Definitely She-Hulk was on there because I'd read the new ones and it's just a really great, strong character. Kitty Pryde is definitely up there. Let me think. What else? I think Wonder Woman by way of obligation. I mean, she is the female character. She is like a great idea of a woman, and she's wrapped up in politics and magic and the rest of it is really cool. Let me think. Batgirl, I think, is one of my favorites as well. I'm not really familiar with the new one, but I mean, I think it's a fairly cool idea, kind of a mute ninja master of sorts. But definitely Barbara is higher up there. I can't think of any others right now, but well, kind of Medusa because she makes a really interesting kind of companion to Black Bolt. Like I remember reading was it either Earth X or Universe X, just kind of the way she interprets things for him. She speaks for him, and that's a really cool. I think not necessarily that she's submissive or pressed by Black Bolt, but that there's kind of this partnership going on, which is really cool.
And she's got that cool red hair that goes all over the place too. So.
I would love for my wacky hair to actually conform to my thoughts. That'd be nice. Hey,
do you want to do a quick off the rack for us? Something you're reading now that you're really digging?
Yeah, I mean, I mostly do trades just because being a college student, I can't afford much. What was something I picked up really recently? The Third Planetary came out. The trade paperback came out fairly recently, but it was really, really, really good. I love Cassidy. I love Warren Ellis, and it's I think Jamie said this a bunch of episodes back. It just when you sit down with it, obviously it's not even bi-monthly. It's like quarterly or whatever, but it encourages you to read other things, get involved with other genres, and I just looking through it's just a lot of fun. I think my favorite was when they found out that the Thor I actually don't want to spoil too much, but yes, some really great scenes in there. So,
and what's your favorite part of the show?
Favorite part of the show, huh? Well, I have Stump the Rios, so that's
You can join the elite few.
That was a lot of fun.
He just got beat again in this episode. So.
Oh, Peter, come on.
He got spanked royally.
I mean, you're single. You should have more time for research. Poor Peter. That's all right. But I mean, the interviews have just been phenomenal. I mean, just like hearing about people that I've never heard about. I mean, and then Stan a few days back was just like, I'm jealous to the umpteenth degree of you guys. It must have been amazing.
It was very cool.
We were all extremely geeky.
Hey, I forgot to email you, or I just, not forgot, but I haven't emailed you. You'll probably get your Stump the Rios prize to your home address, not college.
Yeah, because I gotta leave college in a few days.
I wanted to know, does any of this sound interesting to you? Modesty Blaze or Dan Dare, Pilot of the Future?
What was Modesty Blaze?
Modesty Blaze. Talk about that.
Like modesty as opposed to
modesty.
vanity?
Yeah,
okay.
She's like a private detective type. If I'm remembering correctly, like private detective model / models.
Okay.
Thing.
I mean, it sounds interesting. Who publishes it?
This is from Titan Books. Actually, these are hardcover. The Dan Dare is a hardcover collection. The Modesty Blaze is a soft cover. The Dan Dare is more like tomorrow stories, like future stories.
Because I love Tom Strong. I love all those kind of in the top 10, the kind of the genre bending, but very old timey and sensibility stuff.
Well, then you probably like the Dan Dare one. So
okay.
I would say that one.
Yeah, so I'll send that one to you then.
Okay, well, thank you very much. That's sweet of you, Peter.
Cool. No problem. From TitanBooks.com.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, God bless you, but also damn you guys for introducing me to in-stock trades. It's, but actually, on that note, I know you've taken up a lot of your time, but one last thing. My little brother, I just got it through eBay. The whole first 8 books of JSA trade paperback. I got it for like $50.
Wow.
He's gonna love it. Like he's got like a scant like 6 or 7 issues of JSA like here and there just because I've gotten him into comic books. But this is gonna be like he's gonna open it up and it's just gonna be like days and days of him just reading it. I'm looking forward to him that face he's gonna make when he sees it.
Well, that's cool. That's a hell of a gift.
Yeah.
Got that right.
He'll break his back if he tries to carry it too far there.
Have you guys got any amazing? I mean, I don't know if you want to reveal them on the air, but is there anything amazing that you found, kind of either comic book or not, related to Christmas?
I don't know. Not particularly, I don't think.
No, not really.
Okay. And then
kind of boring.
Yeah, sorry that didn't go anywhere for you.
Occasionally the show doesn't go anywhere. I've learned. Sometimes there's very awkward silences. But that's what makes it magic. But then I'll mention, well, as long as I've got your ears, I'll also mention I silk screened a bunch of shirts for my friends since I'm leaving, kind of a graduation gift, and they say Marcin Wolynski hates me across the front. So they're going to be people walking around with those. I was really proud of that.
Your fan club.
Yes, exactly.
Cool.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right. Well, have a very good holiday. And,
You too, guys.
Well, we look forward to hearing your contributions on the show again in the future.
I'd be glad to. Give my love to everybody who wasn't there, to Tasha, Matt, the rest of them. I love you guys' show. Keep doing it.
Thanks.
All right.
And back to my friend the doctor.
Definitely. My friends they're just in awe of how bizarre this movie is. All right, thanks a lot, guys.
All
Take
right.
care.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
All right.
That is a Mondo bizarre movie, though.
Yeah.
I watched it as a kid and I loved it. And I agree. I love Rex Harrison as an actor, but he's not a singer. He's a talker. And just going back to it, I can't remember when I watched it, a couple years ago from an adult side, and I was just like, wow, there's some bizarre stuff in this freaking movie.
Yeah. We got some... You're going to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Some fan mail from some flounder.
Yeah, he mentioned Christmas, and that made me realize that just today we got four things in the mail. We got a Christmas card from Bob, who's JLA fan on the forum. So that was excellent. We got a postcard from Jeffrey Bordert or Bordaire. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be pronounced in the French way or not. I really don't know. But he's He's icon on the forum. So that was cool. Good stamp from Canada there, and an excellent mountain, Canadian Rockies. That's very cool. And then we also got a Christmas present from Jeffrey as well. Is that Borch? I can't read his handwriting. It's not a D. It's Borch. His handwriting, it's a little something to be desired here. But we'll forgive him because he sent us a box of truffles that are unbelievably good. And truffles lies in chocolates, not the rare mushrooms. But, man, they're delicious. Oh, yeah. Jamie's going to have insulin shock here or something soon.
Say, even as a diabetic, I had to at least try one, and oh, my Lord.
Notice they're in the other room.
Yeah, otherwise we'd be munching all show long. And we also got a Christmas card from Devil's Due Publishing, which is very nice. Cool. Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else want to send us expensive chocolates? We're not opposed to that at all. Shall we listen to a voicemail here?
Sure.
I got one queued up here. Let's see.
Hi guys, this is Mike Schwartz. I guess you can add my name to the list of people that didn't pick up when you called. I was actually holding a ladder while putting up decorations at my church, so at least I have a worthy excuse, I guess. I heard back your voicemail, and it was really staticky. I couldn't understand any of you. The only thing I could hear was the intro music playing through, and maybe a Schwartz, something like that. I don't know. But oh man, I even got some new books on Wednesday. If you were going to bring it up, where did I get? All-Star Superman, which was all right. I'll get the next one. Hopefully, it doesn't get really crappy like the Batman ones did. Books of Doom, which also was all right for someone who doesn't know too much about Dr. Doom. And what else did I get? Oh, I got Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man #2, which is still pretty good. I know there's been a lot of complaints that, why start a whole new series and, throw it right in the middle of this big storyline. It doesn't really have room to be a book of its own, but I like Mike Wieringo's art, and so far the story's okay. It's kind of weird how Spider-Man and Superman both seem to have kind of blood diseases right now. I'm hoping that they won't have a very special Batman issue where he has diabetes or something like that. But well, again, it's a bummer that I missed your call. But thanks for calling anyway, and I hope you got my entry for the DCBS theme song, and I look forward to hearing your next show. So have a good one. Bye.
Sooner or later, we'll call you back. I still have your name on the list as we did not contact yet, so one of these days.
His mention of the Doom book, that was also another thing I wanted to throw in that makes Paul Pope one of my new favorite creators. When he said Red Skull and Doom were two of his favorite villains, I was like, right on, brother.
There you go.
Any word on that theme song contest yet? Or no?
Well, I heard from Cameron, and they've narrowed it down to 3 selections.
Oh, okay.
So they're just trying to decide which one of those 3 they want to pick. They've all listened to all of them as a company, and because they want this is going to identify them, so they want to have the best possible one. So they're not taking it lightly. Mm-hmm. So we will hear from them. Just hang on, So
and a reminder that we have 2 forum contests.
That's right.
Just real quick, you can just go to our site, go to the forum. One is a versus contest. Draw a picture of a hero versus hero, hero versus villain, villain, team versus team, us versus somebody. Post it on the forum. Also email it to us. Each of us is going to pick one, and the prize is a starter deck Fantastic Four from Versus. And the other contest is a toy picture contest. Make a diorama, show us your collection, Photoshop it, do whatever you want. Make a cool picture, a cool display of your toys and your figures and all that stuff. And the prize for that is a Rainbow Connection Kermit from Palisades.
Courtesy of Shane.
Courtesy of Shane, yep. And he also said he might throw in some other things with that.
Yeah,
so.
Did you see the entry from Jeff on the Versus drawing?
Oh, yes, I did.
Holy mackerel.
No, I saw there were some this morning, but there were other places I wanted to look. I didn't get a chance to look at that yet.
And then somebody actually made Versus cards with each of us on them, and that was really good. And they had a couple, what are those cards?
Plot twists.
Plot twists, yeah, a couple plot twist cards with us, and they gave us all cool powers and different special abilities. And you were a 2020 card. You're the most powerful card.
As it should be. I don't see anything wrong with that.
It was great.
Both these contests ended at the end of January, and
so you have plenty of time.
Yeah, just get to it.
So are we going to do an off the rack?
Sure.
Because I have one that I want to talk about.
Well, go.
Because I read.
Because I'm going to have to think for a couple seconds. But go ahead.
This weekend, I finally sat down and read the hardcover of Young Avengers, and okay, this book needs to be read by everyone. If you are even the slightest bit a fan of Marvel, this is so good. I mean, what could have been incredibly cheesy and stupid is the most original and interesting idea that's come out of Marvel in a long time. Like, the whole concept, the whole way that they're handling it. I'm not going to give it away, but they've kind of retconned some stuff, but not in an obvious and annoying way. It's kind of like, somebody kind of kept a little secret that, he never revealed until now, and it's very interesting, and it fits perfectly in with the story. It doesn't feel forced in any way, shape, or form. And Jim Chung's artwork is gorgeous.
Amazing.
And everything about those first 6 issues was perfect. And I just cannot wait to read the next 6. So
the first 12, I've been reading it monthly, and the first 12 were excellent. It was a nice story arc. It ended it, and it was just great.
Yeah, so I can't speak highly of it enough. Check it out, Peter. I'm going to make you borrow it because
how many freaking swears?
5. No question about it.
Freaking swear. Alan Heinberg is the writer.
Yeah,
just in case anybody's wondering.
Yep, and it's because they take a couple established characters that are actually have been like 1 or 2, and then they throw in some new characters, and it all. Brian's right. It all just. I've been touting that book since the first issue I read. I mean, you got to get by. I'll be honest with you. My one and only critique is I really hate the code names. I absolutely hate the code names. And when you first saw the book, that's what you saw. You saw these code names. You're like, the fuck. But it doesn't. It really get past that, because if that's what's keeping you away from it, you're really doing yourself a disservice.
Well, and they actually at the end of the 6th issue, they take a look at that in a little more detail, and some of them change some of their code names to.
I said 12. It must not be 12.
Because I think only 10 has been solicited or something.
Now I'm thinking about that. You're right, because it was at the end of this. Because I was thinking it was the end of the 12th that they did that with the code names, but you're right. It is only 6, so I correct myself.
I'll go next. And I'm actually going to talk about something that I didn't like. Normally I've been trying to hit things that I really like.
Yeah, well, that's cool.
About 10 or 12 issues of Amazing Spider-Man. It's the Mike Deodato drawn Amazing Spider-Man. It's the Sins Past story, the Skin Deep story, and then whatever the Hydra story is called. And I gotta say, they were really tough to get through. I don't know if any of you guys read those.
I read the Sins Past, and I think like half of the Skin Deep, because then I just went, I don't care anymore.
Yeah,
I'm done.
Like, there's been a lot said about the Sins Past one. The whole revelation of the Stacy twins and things like that. So I'll let that one go. But the Skin Deep one, it's just, first of all, the comparing Deodato's artwork to Mark Brooks, who did the flashback stuff, made that book so jumpy. And it felt so disconnected. Like, it was like, whoa, there's another. It almost felt like you're reading Amazing Spider-Man and Marvel Adventures Amazing Spider-Man, and not to say that's I'm not talking about the quality of the artwork. I'm just talking about those two styles didn't mesh. It was 4 issues of, I don't know what the point was. I think the point was just what happened at the end of the story with the reason why they are now living in New Avengers Mansion. And then the Hydra story was like, wow, was just, as much as I loved the way they did Hydra and Wolverine, it was like the exact opposite here in Amazing Spider-Man. And the story just, it just was boring. Like, they were almost like pointless, they felt like filler comics. And I know, people love to critique Straczynski and say, he starts off great and ends bad, but I gotta admit, this was the reason why I left Amazing Spider-Man, because it was going nowhere, and these issues went nowhere. And I also am a little worried now, with Mike D. O'Donnell's artwork, because he's going on New Avengers, and I was really kind of turned off. He started off kind of good, like I liked it in Sins Past, regardless of what the story was. It was, it wasn't as photorealistic as it became. There was this whole scene later on where Peter Parker goes to see to go see Mary Jane practicing, and they did a whole Bruce Campbell scene in it, just like Spider-Man 2. About the they like
the usher.
Yeah, they kind of had like another scene, and I went, I don't want to see that. Mary Jane's director kind of looked like Robert De Niro. It just was like, I don't like that.
Oh, yeah,
I really don't like that. And some of the Mary Jane artwork, when they had this one argument, and she's crying, and it looked like he just took a picture of somebody and just smacked it onto the comic and colored it, And I was like, oh, man, if I'm not liking this here, what am I going to be like when he jumps on New Avengers? I'm like, God, is he going to kill me off that book, And so I just don't dig that style. And whatever numbers those issues are, I sold them on eBay, thankfully. But they were not fun. They were definitely
very not fun. They were not
funny. They were like a low 1, very low 1, and that's being generous for me.
That's
yeah, because that's how I felt. So that's mine.
I'll also go with Peter and go for one that I haven't enjoyed. I'll since I seem to always try to find something good in everything I read. The Angel series from IDW, The Curse.
Oh yeah, that continues after the show left off.
That's what they said it was. So I'm figuring, okay, it's gonna show me what happened. It's going to maybe give me some answers on what happened to Fred, what happened to Gunn, what happened. I guess Wesley bit the big one at the end of the series. I'm not giving anything away that isn't like 2-3 years old. And just I wanted to see what happened. And here, it's a story set in Romania where Angel is going back to, I guess, try to find the gypsies that cursed him to begin with. And there's this giant vampire battle between these two vampire. I kept like, for the first one, I say, okay, well, eventually they're going to go back. Maybe this will be the first 2 issues. Right. And after issue 2, well, maybe this will be just the first 2 and the third one. And after 3, and I just finished the 4th one, and I was like, damn, I just wasted $12 because those are like $3.99 a pop. And I was very disappointed. Now, stupid me, I've now also gone and ordered Old Friends, which, again, they are advertising it to be, this is what happens. Now you'll find out what happened to Gunn and Fred and all those characters. And I'm like, well, goddamn it, I bought this one because you told me that was what it was going to be.
Yeah, I expected the first page to be like a double, a whole. Like the first page would be words describing what happened in the last episode of Angel, and then you'd flip it over, and there'd be a double-page spread of them standing in a group, just like the last shot of the.
When they're walking down the alleyway.
And then the rest of the book would continue right from that point. As a fan, that's all I care about. You want to tell backstory, tell it later. You would do whatever. That's cool, but I want to know exactly from the minute the TV show ended.
And I'm not a real fan of. I wasn't a fan of the Buffy comic book. Or the Angel comic book that they came out with, but this one I wanted because of exactly what I said, because they advertised it that way. It wasn't what I got, so I was very disappointed. And if you're waiting for the trade, thinking it's going to tell you what happened, don't buy it. I will tell you, don't buy it. Save your money. Maybe once I start reading this Old Friends, I'll be able to say, yes, this is the one you want to tell you that story.
Did they announce now that they're going to do the same thing with Buffy? Didn't I read that somewhere?
I think so, yeah. I think there's going to be a comic book from, I don't know if it's Dark Horse or where it's coming from, but it's supposed to pick up where the Hellmouth is closed and now they're off doing whatever they're doing.
Like the way Joss Whedon, because it is Joss Whedon writing it, correct?
I think so. I'm not 100% sure.
Is that he said he would call it season 8 if he had to. Like, so I don't think it's like going to be like, what you're talking about, like right after, but it's going to still have the same, the basic continuity.
Well, if he's writing it, at least the characterization will still be there and the jokes and all that stuff, which really, that's what Buffy is. The whatever happened during the episode really didn't matter as long as those characters were acting the way that they acted.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm very intrigued about that as well. So
that's our off the rank.
Bummer.
Well, sometimes you can't love everything.
Yeah,
that's right.
Gotta warn people when there's.
Yeah, we tell you what is good to buy, we'll tell you what's not good to buy. So, since we had Paul Pope on, I'm gonna put a quest out there for everyone to go to Comic Book DB and enter all of Paul Pope's stuff, so that he can, I love this. I was on there this weekend. I'm up to 50 comics now. I know, Peter, that's nothing compared to you, but I did have 13 or whatever on Friday, so I've come a long way in a short time, and we're almost at 20,000 now.
Wow.
In the system, and we were at like 17.5 on Friday, so we got over 2,000 entries over the weekend, which is awesome.
I got a private message from Darth Skeptical.
Yeah.
Is he Darth Skeptical or Darth Kramer? I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly. I was pretty sure it's Skeptical, who said he put that Fantastic Four 247 on for me.
Oh yeah.
And he wanted to know if I would. He didn't put any kind of description. He said he wanted me to go on and put the description on. So I'm going to have to go on there and put the description on.
That's cool. But that's just, and he just added, which I think is awesome. He added the ability for trade. If you enter a trade paperback, and if the issues that are in that trade paperback have been entered into the system, you can link those issues to the trade, so that when you're looking at an issue, it will say which trades it's been collected in, which is a freaking awesome feature.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so awesome. This thing has just... When he described it to me, I was like, that's cool. And now it's way beyond what I thought. And I freaking love it. I can't... maybe I'm just such an organization junkie that it just... Right. But I was on the Grand Comic Book Database, because they say they have over 100,000 comics now, and their goal is to capture every single comic that's ever been published in any language everywhere around the entire globe, right? That's their mission. And you go and you click a comic, and then you're like stuck. And you have to click back to go to the next comic, or to go to search for a different title, and it's terrible. There's nothing links to each other, there's no flow of information. And after using this site for even a couple months, it's like, how could anyone go to that? I mean, I'm not dissing the guys who are doing Grand Comic Book Database. They've been doing it for a long time, and they have 100,000 comics, and we only have 20,000, so they're beating us. But they need to work on the functionality of their website, and it's really not easy to use at all. So, this is great. And if we have 20,000 this fast, we'll catch up to 100,000 in no time.
I mean, my number, I think I'm up to like 400 and some, but the next guy above me is up to 1,000 and some.
Yeah, so to catch up, you have to...
I just not sleep.
Yeah. I'm working on entering the grooves, and I entered the first issue of Z. So my name is now, I am now a creator. I'm a letterer in comicbookdb.com. So let's put all Paul Pope stuff in. If you have anything, pick that off the top of your pile and put it in there. And I just like it, little challenges to keep the system growing. A reminder that this episode of Comic Geek Speak is brought to you by the New York City Comic Con. And as we've stated many times before, we will be there. It is in February, the 24th through the 26th, at the Jacob Javits Center. And the tickets are $15 for Friday, or $25 for either Saturday or Sunday, or $35 for all 3 days. They have some big names coming: Jim Lee, Joe Quesada, Brad Meltzer, Neil Adams, just a lot of different people are coming, and it's looking like it's really going to be a hell of a show. Maybe we'll get Paul Pope there. Maybe we'll guilt him into coming.
Cool.
So, so we look forward to meeting you there. Big thanks to Paul Pope for joining us. It was an excellent interview. You've definitely created some new readers, so it was worth his time.
And I just want to say one thing. This episode. I'm assuming you're wrapping up. I just want to say before I go any farther. Okay, this episode is going to go up. This will be our last episode before Christmas.
It should be, yes.
And I'm going to wait to say what I wanted to say to all you guys because I wanted everybody to be here, but it's only us three. But you both know how I feel about you. I love you both, and I just want to thank you for for a year ago, if we'd been sitting in a room, and you would have said we would have been podcasting, and we'd have talked to Stanley and Peter David and Mark Evanier and just everybody we talked to, I would have laughed. But I want to thank you guys just for this, and more than that, I want to thank our listeners because without them, we'd just be the five of us sitting here talking and. Hell, we do that, on our own without microphones in front of us. But I really want to thank the listeners because through the good comments, through the bad comments, through everything, you make my day every time I go on there and I can see somebody says, right on, Jamie, I know what you're talking about, or disagrees, hey, what the hell are you talking about? It just makes my day. I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. Happy holidays, happy Kwanzaa, happy Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. Have a merry one, have a safe one, and again, thank you because without you, this again just be us sitting here talking to one another.
Yeah, I mirror your sentiments exactly. It's been, just the fact that we have, 3 Christmas cards, chocolates. I'm getting postcards practically once a day now. It's awesome. We've gotten gifts of free, books that listeners have sent to us because we've talked about that we wanted to read something. It's unbelievable, and it makes me so happy. And it's just really cool to be part of the worldwide comics community. And I appreciate everything that everyone contributes, both you guys in the room and the listeners out there. It's just fantastic.
Just wait for 2006.
Oh,
it's
baby.
only gonna get
if it just keeps rolling, it's going to be awesome.
Can't wait to that. And you know what? That's part of the fun. Like we know some things that are coming up, but the listeners don't. And it's just fun to bring them along.
Right.
And it's just, if everything works out the way we want it to work out, it's just going to be a pleasure to bring some of this stuff to you guys.
Absolutely. All right, to send us an email, it's comicgeekspeak@gmail.com. Check out our website at comicgeekspeak.com. And thanks to the fine folks at upallnightgaming.com for hosting our website. Still a few more days to vote for us at Podcast Alley. We're almost at 300 votes, so we're doing really well this month. And we have a bunch of new T-shirts. Check them out under the swag section. We got some, and the quality is fantastic. And reminder that we are brought to you in conjunction with worldfamouscomics.com, your spot on the internet for the best comic book and entertainment-related columns, contests, features, reviews, news, resources, and more. And as always, we are uniting the world's mightiest heroes, one listener at a time.